Okay, so this video is gonna contain spoilers for all of Deltarune, and in this video I'll be answering four questions, being who the knight is and the shelter codes. So, for Asgore's shelter code, we know the first 7 letters, which are 0915199. The last letter in his code is likely 7, as this is likely a date, being September 15th, 1990. And then the last letter would be 7, making it September 15th, 1997, which 1997 is there because it's a date that Spamton brings up a lot, and this is likely also the marriage date of Asgore and Toriel. And we can also assume from this that the dates are relevant in World and to Toby Fox, September 15th being the release date of Undertale, and 1997 being when the first Toho game came out. The second code, being the one with the Deltarune icon, is likely February 22nd, 1995. I got February 22nd, 1995, which is 02221995, because the fire extinguisher in the second sanctuary gives the code of 2202, which can be rearranged to 0222, and I got 1995 as that's the American release date of Earthbound, pretty sure? Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Earthbound. And in World, this could be like the day Alvin was born, as it has the Delta rune as the symbol for the code, which is relevant to Alvin as he's the pastor, and likely relevant to Gerson as he's the author of Lord of the Hammer, being based upon the prophecy. And this should make sense as Alvin's birth date, because Alvin's likely older than Asriel, who's in college. He's likely in his 20s, but younger than Asgore, who's likely in his early 40s or early 50s or late 40s. The final shelter code is likely the first 4 letters being 1225, and we can assume that the final shelter code is the day Des was born, which is anywhere from 1998 to 2006. It could be 1998, as if we assume that Rudy and Carol got married around the same time as Asgore and Toriel. Des would be born the earliest in 1998 and latest by 2006, as if we assume that Asriel is in his 20s or late teens, then the latest he can be born is 2006. 2006 is also the release year of Mother 3, which is a massive inspiration for Toby Fox. And then for who the knight is, that's kind of complicated, but I believe the knight is an amalgamate. Not of Chris or Noelle, which is getting popular recently, but of every character we haven't seen. Which the characters we haven't seen, the major ones, are Papyriess, Asriel, and Des. Now, the evidence for this is kinda skewered, but the knight looks like a mix of Papyriess and Des. The knight's battle theme, Black Knife, and Asriel's battle theme, Burn in Despair, both have very similar starts. Then, in one of the knight's unused attacks, they use fire magic, which we see Asriel do in Undertale, and we know Rousey can do in Deltarune, and Rousey is meant to look like Asriel to a degree. And then, in the unused Shadow Crystal dialogue for Chapter 3, it shows Undyne frozen in ice, which the Holiday family can likely do, as we see Noelle and Snowgrave Birdley. And then for the knight's sword, at first, when the knight's summoning it, it might look like a bat, which is tied to Des, as she's tied to bats, with one being in her room. And it turns into a sword, and Asriel uses swords in his fight in Undertale. And aside from that, there isn't really any much evidence for this knight candidate, and there's a lot of holes, such as like the knight appearing before the main story, which could be answered in the fact that Gaster is likely a skeleton, meaning that Sans would likely trust him with Papyrus. So Papyrus could have opened the first Dark World in the knight's costume, and then in that Dark World, Gaster's crew could have kidnapped Des. And then they could have waited for Asriel to go to college to kidnap him, because then nobody would really know. And they could have just stolen his phone when they kidnapped him. And this would also explain why we haven't really seen both Asriel and Papyrus. Yeah, and like that's basically it. If this isn't really my personal pick for the night, but someone already made a video on who I think the night is, and I'll be linking that in the description. Other than that, I don't really have much else to say, so bye bye for now.